Get ready for the Magic Valley Prepcast on IdahoSports.com.
That's right. Welcome in another edition of the Magic Valley Prepcast on IdahoSports.com, talking District 4 athletics week in, week out here in the state of Idaho. My name is Brandon Baney, and we are joined today by Mr. Misunderstood, a.k.a. Scott Burton. If you had a dime every time you were misunderstood about something, you probably wouldn't have to be, you'd be on a beach somewhere retired, right?
I would be. Yeah, no kidding. Especially this past weekend. Yeah, I am definitely Mr. Misunderstood. The Eric Church song, for those that are not familiar with the title. It's kind of a little double entendre, really, because yes, I am often misunderstood. But at the same time, I was in Boise this weekend and got called Eric Church about a half a dozen times because I had my hat on, my aviators, a little bit of the scruff going on, and one guy even took a picture of me and said, "Hey, guess who I saw today?" And Eric Church. But I don't get it. It's the aviators and the scruff is all it is. Put a hat on, and then maybe it's something else too.
Yeah, it looks you're looking good with the indoor sunglasses, and hopefully you'll be able to actually use those at some point as we continue to be in this deep winter freeze. Scott, where I live over in Pocatello, we got like over a foot plus of snow over like a 2-day period. If you're watching the video version of this podcast on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel, I'm going to share a picture. If you're listening audio only at IdahoSports.com or wherever you download your podcasts, I'll describe the picture as best as I can. But if you want to see what it looks like, go to the YouTube channel and check out the Magic Valley Prepcast. This was me, Scott, on Monday, as I attempted, actually Tuesday, as I was shoveling in my backyard. Take a look at this.
Oh my goodness. Wow. You guys are just getting hammered over there. That's insane.
Yeah. So there was, when it was all said and done, it had to have been like 18 inches. It was nuts. You can see it all behind me. That black thing that's in the middle of the picture, this is me in my backyard. That black thing in the middle, that's actually our outdoor fire pit. I thought it was safe enough to pull it out for the season, but apparently not.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, the thing is, it's still pretty low as far as the elevation goes because Shoshone just got hit pretty hard a couple of days ago, and that's just up the road from you. So, it's still down in the valley here in the Magic Valley. Right now, today, as we shoot this on a Thursday, the sun is shining, the wind is blowing a little bit, but we've got baseball going on right now. We got softball going on right now. We've got a middle school track meet here at the high school. It is absolute chaos out there, but the sun is shining, and everybody's happy at the moment because it has not been seen in all of 2023. It's unreal.
Yeah, and dovetailing along that, I'll take my picture off and get us back up here and squared away. A topic I kind of wanted to explore next week is spring sports season. We had the Highland baseball coach over here in Pocatello put it out on social media yesterday, basically saying like, "Hey, IHSAA, I know this is," and he tagged the IHSAA in the post. "I know it's like kind of an unusual year weather-wise, but like we literally have not practiced outside once, and districts are in 4 weeks. Like, can we talk about moving the spring sports season back even a week to try and offset this?" So that's something I kind of wanted to explore next week. Maybe you can reach out to a couple of coaches and get a straw poll and see what people think about that. Because I'll tell you, I hate the overlap between the seasons here in Idaho, whether it's fall to winter or winter to spring. I think you're shortchanging whatever athletes are competing in the new season when you have something as exciting as championships still occurring as their season starts. So,
well, yeah, you are. And then factoring in a lot of other things that are playing a role too. Take Max Preps. You get a team that goes, let's say, plays deep into the state football playoffs, maybe plays in the state title game. Their basketball season really is kind of already gotten going. And they can't gel at all because they haven't played together. yet they're going to be winning games, losing games, whatever in this max prep rankings. We saw it this past year with Bishop Kelly, I believe, boys basketball, as they go on and do what they do every year in football. And, Coach Kearns up there just has to deal with it because all those kids, or a majority of those kids, are playing football, has to get them together in a matter of a couple of days ready to play. But that takes, up until Christmas to get going. And that's exactly what we saw happen, because they entered the tournament one of the hottest teams in 4A after Christmas. Well, the reason why was exactly what you're talking about. That overlap is something.
Yeah. So, and this is a conversation I had on the East Idaho Prepcast with our co-host there, Sean Kane. He's also the tennis coach at Century. And he said basically, like, all the tennis coaches in East Idaho have already kind of sent in the paperwork to the IHSAA about state seeding for tennis, because the rule is to get seeded at the state tennis tournament, you have to have a minimum of 10 matches. Nobody in East Idaho is going to reach that. So they've already kind of drawn up the paperwork to say, hey, we're going to have to bend the rules a little bit this year so we can get our East Idaho champions seeded at state. So it's just a mess. But we'll dive more into that topic next week, because we did have some really good on the field, on the track type stuff to talk about. We kind of teased it on last week's show, Scott, but an historic event a week ago, as Lighthouse Christian, for the first time ever, competed in baseball. Now, last year, they brought softball to the school for the first time, and now they're in year 2 of their softball program. But here we are, year 1 of baseball at Lighthouse Christian, and I know everybody involved in that program is really excited about it.
Yeah, no, they are. This was something that really kind of got thrown together, when head coach Ed Wood was really the spearhead behind almost all of it. And the way that it got started was, it was late last year, November, December area, where they were really cutting it close of not even being able to get their paperwork in to form a team, So what they did is they just kind of gauged the interest. And next thing you know, they had enough kids that were interested. They called this baseball meeting. They had 19 to 20 kids there. It's like, holy crap, we might be able to do this. So they quickly got their stuff turned into the state. And then, bam, they're a team. Now, this is right before Christmas. And all the other schools have their schedules set. These guys don't even have uniforms. They don't have equipment. And now they're going to try to throw something together in a matter of a couple of months to get it going. But, according to Coach Wood, the parents and the community really, really stepped it up. They've got some parents that work at a couple of businesses, Built Unlimited, Smith Promoting, those types of businesses here in the Valley stepped up and really quickly got them what they needed to get. And so they quickly got it together, pieced it together, and they got their season underway, which is really exciting over a Lighthouse. But it was just a frantic, mad scramble to get it. And I can only imagine what's going on over there. But they got it done.
And my understanding, and you can tell me if I'm right or wrong, if you know, last year when Lighthouse brought softball in, they kind of said, we're going to kind of do our own schedule, play some JV teams, play some varsity teams. And then when the postseason comes, we'll compete in District 3, because there's no other 1A teams in District 4 that play softball or baseball besides Glens Ferry. And Glens Ferry plays in District 3. So Lighthouse said for the playoffs, for softball, we'll just take the 8 seed and be in the District 3 tournament. It appears this year that the Lighthouse softball team is a full-fledged member. They're playing all the conference opponents. And so they kind of had a trial run year 1, full-fledged member year 2. It looks like the baseball team is on a similar path, right? This year, they're kind of just playing a handful of varsity teams, but also some JV teams mixed in.
That's exactly right. This first year, everybody's got their schedule set. They don't formally belong to a conference yet. So they're just really kind of picking up games wherever they can. And so they are playing a lot of JV teams from around, the area, sometimes a little mix of JV varsity teams. But that's exactly what they're doing. So they're doing all of that to where next year they will be in their own conference, the Western Idaho Conference. So it's just that first year, getting it going, getting some kids some experience, getting your equipment and your uniforms and trying to play some games. And then you throw in the spring weather on top of that, and they played 2 games, and they won their very first game in Lighthouse Christian history the other day against Declo, 13-4. And boy, they were super excited, celebrating. They just won the, I don't know, whatever title you want to give them, but the very first win in school history. And that's something that those kids are going to remember and be proud of. And so they are really, really excited. But yes, it's a hodgepodge thing of scheduling this year. Next year is going to be a little bit more solidified.
And to get a win over a Declo team that's been well established is pretty exciting times for Lighthouse Christian, certainly. And we know that they've got good athletes, right? We talk about in football, they made the playoffs and even got a playoff victory. In basketball, they didn't make it back to state, but they were a force all year long. And we're seeing those same athletes now out on the baseball field.
Well, and the thing about it is, I talked to Coach Wood, and, I asked him, I said, okay, so adding a sport to a spring season, how does that work with some of your other sports? Because you just don't have the pool of kids to draw from, right? And his answer was simple. He goes, we just work together. And as easy as that sounds, it's not easy to implement, because there are a lot of schools a lot bigger than Lighthouse that are having problems, sharing kids. Well, you look at this Lighthouse team, they've got 15 on the team, and 10 or 11 of them are playing another spring sport, whether it be track or golf or, whatever. And so when that happens, all the coaches, they get it. They understand each other. And the kids are just saying, hey, coach, I got to go qualify for this golf tournament today. I'm not going to be at practice. Like, okay, all right, that's cool. So they're all sharing. And so that's part of the I guess the process when you put something new in. And luckily for Lighthouse, the rest of the spring coaches, I've been told, have been completely on board and supportive.
Yeah, and I'm excited to hear that there was such a large turnout and a good number of kids that want to play, because you're gonna run into problems when you have multi-sport athletes within the same season. Famously, or not famously, but 3 years ago, Idaho City had baseball for the very first time at their school, and they kind of did the same thing. They had to borrow athletes from track and field to fill out the roster, and basically they got to district tournament time, and it was their district tournament opener, but it was the same day as the district track meet, and their best hitter, the cleanup batter, first baseman, pretty darn good shot put thrower too, and he said, hey, sorry, I got to go qualify for state in the shot put, and they didn't have enough players. I think it was he and one other kid had to go do track. They didn't have enough players to withstand that. They had to forfeit their district tournament opener because they didn't have enough guys. So it sounds like Lighthouse is good there in terms of the depth as well.
Yeah, well, you hope so. But when you get 15 guys on a team, all it takes is a couple injuries, and then a couple of those types of situations, and a perfect storm to develop. The next thing you know, yeah, you're in that same boat again. But in order for this to work, all those coaches have got to work together and be able to share their players. And if you can't do that, it doesn't matter if you're a 1A school or a 5A school for it, doesn't matter. If you're not able to do that, then you're putting these kids in a really unfortunate situation, because really you want athletes. You don't want specialized players, and you certainly don't want to be in a situation where you're making a kid choose. And luckily, they're so far so good.
And the other thing fans might be wondering about is, okay, if I want to go watch Lighthouse Christian, where do I go? Well, they don't have a facility, obviously. It's their first year as a baseball program. So a lot of road games, but the quote unquote home games that they are playing are going to be in Filer at the Idaho Central Legacy Fields. So that's kind of a cool deal that they have a quasi home away from home there in Filer.
Yeah, they've got a place to play, and they partnered up with the Mike and Austin Legacy Fields, and you're right, that is their home away from home. So even though it's not on campus, they do have a place that they call home, and they're doing some work on that as well. So, I mean, they've got some things in mind for home fields, but that's going to be down the road.
Yeah, and when that happens, we'll be sure to bring it to you, certainly. All right, so let's shift gears now. Let's talk a little track and field, where, my goodness, the story of the week in Idaho track and field, not just Magic Valley, but statewide, didn't actually happen in Idaho. It happened in Texas, where Gatlin Bair, the burly speedster, put on another phenomenal show. This time in the 100-meter dash, where he went down to the biggest high school competition there is and won the 100-meter dash in breakaway fashion.
Yeah, tell me about it. I mean, that was a stacked field that he was running against too. And I mean, you know how he stacks up with the competition in Idaho, barring any type of unfortunate circumstance. I mean, this kid is on track to win the state title in the 100 and possibly the 200 as well. I mean, he is that good. But when he goes down there against that type of competition and runs the way he did, now I've seen two different scores, Brandon, a 10.28, and I've also seen a 10.18. Either way, I mean, that's lightning fast. And the kid will be at our place tomorrow for the Tim Dunn track meet. And so I've already got to see him run one time, and you just don't know what you're looking at, because this kid is just so naturally gifted with speed that it's one of those things that when he runs, you just have to look around and make sure everybody else saw it. Did you see this too? That's the reaction you get when you watch this kid run. He is that good.
Yeah, and I think the official time is 10:18. That is the time. That is so. But I mean, 10:18 is cooking. I've never seen somebody in my life run that fast, like in person. So I'm very excited to maybe get to watch him compete, and I'm sure you are too, Scott.
Oh my goodness, absolutely. I mean, it's just so much fun when you see a kid like this do so well. And I mean, we talked a lot about Colston Loveland and kind of the recruiting that he went through. I mean, Gatlin Bair is kind of, I mean, it's the same way for him. I mean, he's getting offers from Nebraska, Utah, BYU, Oregon, Texas. I mean, this kid is racking up and has racked up a whole bunch of interest, right? But the cool thing about Gatlin, from talking to people that I know, is just he does things really kind of the right way with his body. I mean, he's very conscious of nutrition, very promoter of like ice baths and those kinds of things. I mean, really taking care of your body, and to compete at that level, I mean, you definitely have to take care of yourself. And from what I understand, I mean, he does that very, very well.
Yeah, it really is a full package. If you want to be a premier Division I athlete, you have to take care of your body, and he certainly does that. And we're excited to see how he and the rest of his burly teammates compete. They've got a pretty good distance runner, Bradshaw, as well this year on the boys' side. So it'll be fun to watch them compete. We're launching a new feature on IdahoSports.com every Thursday, Scott. I'm actually putting the finishing touches on it after we sign off here, and it'll be up on the website tonight. It's called Tracking the Field. It's going to be like a bracketology of sorts, but with track and field, where basically every Thursday I'm going to look at the leaderboards. I'm going to add up the points and go, all right, if state was today, based on what we've seen so far, here's all the teams, here's how many points they would score, and here's the top individual in each event. We'll do 5A all the way down to 1A, boys and girls. I think it'll be fun to kind of see a snapshot of, which teams and which individuals are really excelling in track and field this year.
Well, Paul's giving you another job to do, as if you don't do enough already. But that'll be really interesting, because there are some really good track athletes, and even though they haven't gotten out to run a whole lot this year, especially in prime conditions, it's always fun to track that stuff. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, it'll be fun to see how it changes week to week, as well as more teams get out and compete in, we think, nicer weather. Let's wrap up the show today with another track and field story. This one from Buhl, where there was a really cool a senior project that one of the student athletes at Buhl High School completed, and it helped out the school and the track and field program.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a Caden Hunsaker from Buhl built a new pit cover for the high jump for his track as his senior project. And with senior projects being the thing in order to graduate, it's super nice to see these kids doing something that gives back, to the school. And Coach Moretto, the track guy there, was, instrumental in the development of it as well. And that's who Caden went to. He just said, hey, I was thinking about doing something for my senior project. He thought about something that could benefit the sport that he really liked. And first thing that came to his mind was track. And so, between he and Mr. Moretto, they came up with a cover for the high jump pit, and Caden's just a great trackster. I mean, he loves the sport, and he's got a lot of good things to say about how it shaped him and built his relationships over the years. So when it came down to it, it was a no-brainer for him. I want to do something that gives back to a program that really did so much, for me and for Buhl. Hey, that's awesome. And I'll tell you, from an athletic director standpoint, anytime you get a kid to do that as a senior project, I mean, think of what that did cost-wise for the school. I mean, not only would something like that cost some money, but what he's doing is protecting those high jump pits so they're not having to be replaced, because something like that just saved Buhl a lot of money. And so they're all very, very grateful for it.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question was, what kind of value are we looking at here? You would know that as an athletic director. And what kind of shelf life can we expect? How long does a pit cover last for?
Oh, you take care of it. It'll last ages. It'll last well beyond my stint as AD, but that will last a very, very long time. And so, and the thing is, you get these kids that know how to weld, and you get them out of the ag classes, and if you just happen to have one that is into sports, you really try to push them that direction to build something that can be used. And so, talking to Caden, I was emailing Caden back and forth a little bit, asking him kind of about this, and he said, he said it was just nice to be able to give back to the team. And he said the process wasn't terrible. It did take some time. He had a few welding burns, but that's just kind of part of the deal. The struggles, he said, were the angles and the measurements. He goes, I'm not the best at math, so measuring everything else and trying to get it all precise was probably the toughest part of the whole thing. He put in over 20 hours of work on it, with some help from his dad. But he said the biggest thing about putting it all together were the wheels, the heels of it. They originally used wheels with tubes in them, but they're in the process of switching to solid wheels. I mean, anyway, so what that does is it allows the mobile aspect of it. But anyway, yeah, that was the whole journey there with Caden and his high jump pit project, but a very cool thing to do. And I really, really push other high school seniors to do stuff, like that.
Yeah, what a great project. And what a great way to tie it into a team and a school that you're part of as well. And yeah, we saw that story last week and we're like, we got to talk to Caden and get the skinny on this, because what a cool deal that was. And what an outstanding young man as well.
Yeah, absolutely. His coach really had nothing but good things to say about him. And so it's good to see that kind of thing in this day and age where everybody's just kind of, it seems, in it for themselves, and there's a lot of me monkeys out there to where it's like mine. To see this kind of thing is super cool. And I know there's others out there too. So, and we're not below highlighting those. Send us a picture, give us a brief description of what you did. We'll flash it up there and give you some props for giving back to your school. Absolutely.
Yeah. So there was a lot of good things, as we said, happening on the field, but also some really compelling stories, maybe away from the action as well, that weren't weather related for a change. So that's a win in my book, no matter how you mark it down.
Yeah. I'm so tired of talking about the weather. It has been insane. But yeah, we're going to do it again because we need to know the ramifications of this. And we hit on this last week when we talked about, the weather, rescheduling games, big deal. But that plays a significant role for the district tournaments, for the state tournaments, and you brought that up in tennis. Nobody's getting matches in. What condition are the athletes in? Those kinds of things. So yeah, we're not done talking about it just yet, because even if the weather does change and it goes 70 degrees tomorrow, we are still going to be talking about what happened this first month or so of the season.
Yeah, so we'll explore that next week. Maybe, what would happen if we did push the start of spring sports back a week or two, and see if it's something people are receptive to. I'd be very interested to hear about that. So that'll be on next week's edition of the show. But for now, Scott, go enjoy the nice weather while it lasts, because I know it's probably going to be fleeting.
Yeah, no kidding, right? As long as the sun is out, you can deal with a lot of things. It's just, the other day, was it Monday? Or no, Tuesday. What is today? Thursday? 2 days ago. I don't know. Look, we've got softball and baseball going on. We had to cancel a baseball game in the fifth inning because we had sideways snow and hail that was pelting our batters as it was coming right at them. It's like, that's it. We're out of here. And it's like, that was 2 days ago. And now I'm going to walk outside to a middle school track meet, to a softball game, to a baseball game, all happening right there in our complex. And it's just nice to see.
Yeah, that was funny. You guys, Jerome was hosting Sugar Salem in a baseball doubleheader, and I got that first score in, and I kept waiting and waiting and waiting. I'm like, what the heck? Are they going like 14 innings? What happened? Finally, the Sugar coach was like, nah, we called it. And the second game didn't happen. So
sideways put it in 2 days ago. So yeah, the struggle's real, Brandon, no matter where you're at. The Boise people, the Banana Belt up there, it hasn't been great for them, but they're always, 10 degrees warmer, it seems, but they've got a full season going, and definitely advantage that area as compared to the rest of the state, for sure.
Yep. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in, everybody, to the Magic Valley Prepcast. We'll be back next week again to break down the biggest stories happening in District 4. For Scott Burton, Mr. Misunderstood, I'm Brandon Baney, and we will see you next time on IdahoSports.com.